I'm joined by Niklas Zennstrom. He is the CEO, co-founder of Atomic, a big venture capital firm in Europe, but notably also the co-founder of Skype, which was the real pin-up for Europe. And Niklas, yourself, you're going to see Macron, the president. You're going to be there talking about tech for good. What do you expect to occur at the meeting?
So I think it's great that President Macron is engaging with technology to start with, because we all need that, but also to addressing the aspect that technology can have positive impact. And also, of course, that it can have negative impacts that we need to deal with as well.
Talk to us about the ramifications and the responsibilities of technology, because Mark Zuckerberg is going to be at this particular event, and he's a man who's had to deal with a lot of the repercussions of getting too big too quick, potentially. Yeah,
sure. So if you take a bit of a historical perspective, technology, since it started with the Industrial Revolution, has created a lot of growth and economical growth and prosperity. It also has had a lot of negative impacts, environment, and so forth. And my belief is that the new generation of technology, so the digital technology and high tech, has a lot of positive impacts in terms of climate change, water, and so forth. However, it's also now this technology is starting to have some unplanned consequences as well that we all need to deal with, whether that is privacy, whether that is algorithms that has biases, and these are things that everyone else in the technology world have to take responsibility for this now.
So when you're funding new startups, as you do with Atomico, how are you having those conversations with founders to ensure that the culture and the ethics grow in the right way?
Yeah. It's really interesting to see that younger founders are starting their companies. Of course, they're watching what's happening, and they're sponges, and they're seeing, okay, what can we learn from the previous generation of entrepreneurs? So they want to build these things into their companies from day one. So when we're investing in them, we're coming in with talking to them about governance, but we're also asking them the questions about diversity, about ethics, and this is something that all of them are responding very well to. So I think there's an opportunity to work with the next generation of founders to build in some kind of code of conduct from the day one.
What about the next generation of European founders versus American founders? Is this a coming of age? We've just seen Spotify list for 20 billion. You've got money. You've got iZettle being bought by PayPal. You've got money coming back into the ecosystem. Are we at a turning point? Yeah.
So I would say it's an inflection point. It's not a turning point. It's an inflection point. We have been at a steady growth since the years after 2000, and when we had the Skype exit in 2005, that was a big thing. But now this IPO of Spotify is 10x. And along the way, we had $60 billion companies in the last 10 years. You had 14 $5 billion companies. You had a few 10 or $25 billion companies, Spotify, Arm. So the scale is getting bigger and bigger. So there is no doubt in my mind that Europe is now at that inflection point of continuous growth.
We've had different types of exits. iZettle was meant to be coming to the market to list, and suddenly it gets swooped up and snapped up by PayPal. Meanwhile, Spotify did indeed list. Do you wish you'd listed Skype? Was it a possibility?
So the first time, so when we started Skype in 2002, we said we're going to build a company for a really long term. If this company is going to be around and be a meaningful player, in 15 years, we're going to be happy. So 15 years down the road, it's still around and is doing fine. So that's what we're happy with. So we never had the intention to sell. But you also have to look at what are the alternatives. So back then, there was really no prospect of listing. And so that was the right thing to do. However, now when we are speaking to our founders or companies we're looking at investing in, we want them to have a listing as a long-term goalpost, and because we want them to build independent companies instead of building something that you're selling. And we like to say that great companies may be acquired and bad companies get sold. So if you just focus on building a long-term company, that is the right way to do it. I'm
going to pick you up on Skype doing fine. Could it be doing better?
Listen, I don't know. I'm not following it so much. Of course, it can always do better. I mean, it probably has fewer users than WhatsApp, so yes, it could do better. But what is very rewarding for me as I travel around the world, I still have a lot of people thanking me that they're using Skype to connect with their families, and that is rewarding enough for me.
And what about where they list? We were just talking about every company should aim to go public. Europe or the US?
Yeah. So I don't know if it matters that much. I would like to think that the stock market is becoming a global market. It's not really that yet. However, I would say that if you're kind of building your company, I'm thinking very much about how are we building this ecosystem, whether it's in Europe or in other locations. So you need a lot of things to happen. You need to have really good talent coming from the top universities that we have. And then you need to have also capital. And so take, for example, here in Europe and in the Nordics and all over Europe, we have fantastic institutions which are long-term investors, pension funds. If they can get access to these tech companies, then that's going to be very positive for the ecosystem, because then the value that's been created are coming back to the pension holders and the whole European economy. So in that way, I would love these companies to list locally, of course. And I think it's a choice. And the stock markets here in Europe are very welcoming to tech companies. As a matter of fact, over the last year, 4 out of the 10 biggest tech IPOs were in Europe.